Um, all right, I think we can get started now. And as other people join, we can admit them into the webinar. But hi, everybody, and welcome to our Hawaii GroupGAP informational webinar. To kick things off, just a few housekeeping things. We'll have time for question and answers at the end of the webinar. So if you have a question, save it till the end, please, or throw it in the chat. We're recording today's webinar, so if you want to keep your camera off for that reason, feel free. And please keep yourself on mute for the duration of the webinar, just so we don't get any sound feedback. If folks could introduce themselves in the chat as we get started, that'd be awesome. Just your name, where you're tuning in from, and if you have a favorite Thanksgiving dish. We also have a short survey that we're trying to put in the chat, but we're working on the permissions for. So if we don't get that to you at the start of the webinar, we will be sending just a short Google form out by email later today. But yeah, we'll be recording this webinar, so if you want to rewatch or share with anybody, we'll send out the link as well. I'm gonna hand it over to Lisa to really quickly go over the agenda of what we're gonna talk about today, and then kick things off.
All right, thanks everyone for making the time today. We appreciate that, and we'll keep it as efficient as we can as we go. So just to cover what we're going to be talking about today, in brief, we are going to talk about what is harmonized GAP and what is group GAP. Those are two questions that typically come up, and we want to make sure that you understand the difference. We're going to talk a little bit about food safety in Hawaii, in particular, some of the perceptions that have been swirling around about food safety for a long time. We're going to give you some numbers because data is always fun. And then we're going to talk about some solutions, particularly with respect to those challenges or perceptions that we'll mention earlier on. We'll talk about our program at a glance, Hawaii GroupGAP, and help you understand kind of overall what we do. We'll talk a little bit about the benefits of being in our program and the things that we offer to our participating farms. We've got 2 member farm testimonials because we feel like it's better to hear from your peer farmers maybe than us. And then we'll go over the selection process for coming into our training cohort and what the next steps are immediately after this presentation, what you want to do if you want to get in this group, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers. And I'm just going to take a quick minute here and make sure everybody who wanted to get in is in. I think we're good. Okay, so just to kind of cover what we mean when we say GAP, that's a term that gets thrown around quite a bit. GAP stands for Good Agricultural Practices. And when we say USDA GAP, we're specifically speaking about a program. I want to make sure we note that USDA GAP is a voluntary program. That means that it's not required by law, but typically it's required by the folks who might be buying your product. So oftentimes larger buyers like Cisco, Waihata, Chef Zone, HFA, maybe even grocery stores, they're going to often ask for some kind of food safety documentation or certification. Group GAP is actually a newer program that USDA introduced because they saw that for small and medium-sized farms, just getting GAP was increasingly difficult. Small and medium-sized producers typically don't have a big staff. They don't have someone that they can just put in charge of the food safety documentation and getting them ready for an audit. And so Group GAP allows a bunch of farmers, a group of farmers, marketing organizations, food hubs, et cetera, to essentially work under the same umbrella and get that certification together. We can talk more about that as we talk about our program or in the questions later on, but it's really an efficient way for small and medium-sized producers to get a lot more assistance in getting ready for that audit. And for our program, we saw this as this group GAP option as a really important step to helping a lot of our farms get that certification. In Hawaii, we have a lot more small farms than big farms. And a lot of these smaller and medium-sized operations are kind of locked out of the market when they're requiring this food safety certification because they didn't have a way really to get it. But GroupGAP allows for that. And so we started working on bringing a GroupGAP program here to Hawaii in about 2016, 2017. It was formally approved by USDA in 2019, and we had begun working with farmers already. So we had a number of folks in our group. In 2022, we chose to merge with another GroupGAP group, Fresh Systems, and that allowed us to make a much bigger group, but also we were able to give our administrative side of the work to Fresh Systems, and that allows us to really just focus on the work directly here in Hawaii with the farmers. But it also brings a lot more technical assistance to us because as part of a much larger group, Fresh Systems represents about 7 different states across the country who have GroupGAP programs. And so there's a lot more brain power there. We get a lot more assistance and guidance and advice and help from being in this larger group. So I wanted to just take a moment to touch on some of the things that come up when we talk about food safety, especially in the past. I've been working in agriculture in Hawaii for over a decade. And when I first started this work, a lot of times bringing up food safety would bring up a whole bunch of pushback. Farmers were very clear that there were some barriers to them getting certification. The first thing that almost always comes up is cost. People feel that it's too expensive. It's an additional cost that they don't want to take on. And then the second thing is often that workload is a lot. And especially for small and medium-sized farmers, that's legit. They are, as we said, not a big staffed organization, big staff operation. And so they just don't often have the time to dedicate a second person on their team to deal with all of the documentation and work that's required for food safety certification. One comment that does come up every so often is that small farms don't cause food safety outbreaks. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but we just feel like that's inaccurate. And similarly to the workload being too much to take on, a lot of times farmers will say, well, I can't do it. I can't do it by myself. It's too much work. And we'll talk about that too. And then the last thing that is in that list of things that frequently comes up as a barrier is that it's unnecessary. Sometimes farmers will say, well, I don't currently have a market where it's required, and so I don't feel like I need to do it. So we just want to put those out there and acknowledge that those are things that are often brought up in the conversation as a barrier or a challenge to getting that food safety certification. And we'll talk a little bit about the solutions that we have come up with to address those. So we do want to just kind of give you an idea of the landscape. We really like data at North Shore EVP. We like numbers. And so just to give you a sense of where things are today, in the state of Hawaii, it's a very small number of farms that actually have this GAP certification. If you go on the USDA's AMS website, that stands for Agricultural Marketing Service, you will find across the state that there are only 28 operations that are listed as having USDA GAP certification. 16 of them are harmonized GAP certified. 12 of them are what is the older version called GAP-GIP. And I think this is an important thing to mention because we know there's a lot of farms in Hawaii, a lot of small and medium-sized farms in particular. And so again, when we think about those farms being locked out of a market because they don't have this certification, these 28 operations that are listed here are really seeing a lot more market access because they have it versus those that don't. We really want to change that. We want to increase this number. And so every year we do a training cohort, and we add a few more farms to this list. This year we expect to add about 3 or 4 farms to that list, particularly of harmonized GAP audited farms. That's the type of GAP certification that we focus on. And just to make a little bit of clarity there about that one, harmonized GAP is a very robust audit. The older type of audit is called GAP-GIP. That is eventually going to be retired by USDA, and it will only be harmonized GAP audits out there. The great thing about harmonized GAP audits is that they are very similar to FSMA compliance. And so we know that FSMA inspections are happening now in the state. And we have had farmers call us very nervous about that. If you are working towards harmonized GAP certification and you do have a FSMA inspection, you will be well on your way to complying with those FSMA requirements. Just to also put out there, FSMA is the Federal Food Safety Modernization Act, and those requirements are not voluntary if you are a certain size farm. We get into that a little bit more in our cohort classes. So just wanted to say, though, that if you are looking at harmonized GAP certification, that will set you up very well for if you do have a FSMA inspection in the future. So just to kind of explain a little bit about what we've done to help farmers along this path. We know that there are a lot of challenges, a lot of perceptions out there about food safety certification, how difficult it is. We touched on those. So I wanted to just go back to them and kind of tell you a little bit about what we do in each of those areas to try to help our farmers get this certification. First thing, cost, that's at the top of everyone's mind. Two things that we've been doing over the years. One, in the background, we write a lot of grants, and we try to get a lot of help for our program so that we can offer this at as low of a cost as possible. So it is heavily subsidized. We do not charge the full amount of what it actually costs to do this for every single farm in our program. Additionally, over the last year or so, USDA has rolled out a food safety reimbursement program. And so farms that get certified can apply to get quite a bit of that money back. In fact, we have had successful farms in our program get certified and get almost all of their costs back. We have even amended our invoices to make it easy for the federal folks to see, here's what they spent, here's what each farmer spent on this certification process, and that allows them to max out that potential reimbursement. So while there is a cost associated with it, we do our best to keep it as low as possible. The second thing that comes up, again, that workload, small farms, not a lot of staff. We really want to make sure that we're doing our best to help folks. And so some of the ways that we do that, one is through technology. We use a lot of digital technology to help our farmers. One is our classes being on Zoom. We're not asking you to go to a class and sit down and take up part of your day, driving there, parking, etc. We're going to do it on Zoom, and we're going to do it as quickly as we can. More importantly, we also use technology for farmers to keep records. Keeping records is one of the hardest things farmers tell us that they have to do in terms of food safety certification and preparation. And so we tried to find a way to make it as easy as possible, and that turned out to be on a phone or a mobile device. All of the records are digital, very easy, customized templates for each farm to use, lots of drop downs. So your record keeping is very quick, very efficient, and it's time and date stamped. We also want to provide as much local assistance as possible. And so we have a team now of 4 people, myself and Ingrid, Chess, and Dea. We are spread around the state, mostly on Oahu and on Kauai, but we fly to other islands as well to help farmers in our program. So if we need to do something with you that's got to be face-to-face, or you really need help figuring out how to use those records, we will come to you and do that for you. We know that you can't do it alone. And so again, we want to act as your farm's food safety team. We want to do as much as we can on the admin side, helping you gather those documents, organize everything, make sure you've got a farm food safety plan and that your policies are in place. One of the comments that comes up a lot is, again, farmers find that maybe their market that they're currently selling into doesn't ask for this. We understand that, but we do know from experience, farmers that have gone through our program, gotten their certification, they do have greater market access afterwards. They are able to sell into these larger markets like Cisco, like Waihata, and they're moving more product. That allows them to scale up. We also know that despite what people say about small farms not causing food safety outbreaks, that's not necessarily true. Food safety outbreaks can happen no matter what type of operation you have or how big it is. It's not about the number of acres in your operation, it's about your practices. And that doesn't really have anything to do with size. So that GAP certification, as you go through that process, you're really providing yourself and your buyers with a little bit more insurance that your processes are solid, they're robust, and they've been audited by a third party. So this is why we really look at this as a really important piece of what we can do for small farms success in Hawaii. And in just a minute, I'm going to turn it back to Chess, but just to do a little bit of an overall glance at our program, we want to talk just a bit about the common questions after we get to this point. What do we need to do and how much does it cost? So the first thing, prerequisites for our program, we're going to want to talk with you about the infrastructure at your farm. Some of the things that are really, really important for us to know are things like, what is your water source? Do you have a bathroom? We're going to want to talk with you as well about your communication style. While we do try to really help you with the heavy lift of the administrative side of this, the paperwork side of it, it's really important that we have solid communication with you. If you drop off for a few weeks and we can't reach you, that really slows down the process. Most importantly, we really need to know that you have a commitment to this process. It doesn't work if you're not into it. If you're not doing your records, if you're not communicating with us, if you're not showing up to class, then this is not a situation that's going to move forward into a successful certification. The cost, as we mentioned, we do our very best to keep it as low as possible. It is comparable to mainland GroupGAP programs. We do charge a yearly fee of $800, and that's assessed once a year. And we do try to make sure that, again, you get that certification in that first year. We do continue working with farms in the program from year to year. There's a lot of upkeep in this GroupGAP certification program. And so that member fee is assessed each year. But again, there are the USDA food safety reimbursement programs to help with that. And there are discounts available from other vendors that we work with because of being in GroupGAP. One in particular is the water quality lab that we work with. They provide a discount if you're sending your water to be analyzed. They will give you a small discount for that because you're a member of GroupGAP. And the Heavy Connect system that we use for digital record keeping, again, being in our group gets you a really big discount on that. It's a free app for farmers in our program. So I'm going to turn it over to Chess.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. So going over a bit more of what farmers participating in our GroupGAP program receive. And this is regardless of island. We work statewide, so all farmers participating in our GroupGAP program are eligible to receive these benefits. So for folks who do achieve USDA harmonized GAP certification for their product, we're really happy to have our relationship with Hawaii Food Service Alliance, who has offered to provide free neighbor island shipping for any USDA HGAP certified product that you have. So if you're an operation that achieves certification and has product that you need to move between islands, we have that relationship with Hawaii Food Service Alliance to provide that. Additionally, like Lisa mentioned, we have the Heavy Connect, which is our free digital record keeping software. And this will keep track of all your food safety required records and production data. So we love Heavy Connect for both the food safety aspect of things and then also the ability to collect that production and quality data that a lot of buyers are looking for in addition to the food safety certification. Along with Heavy Connect, which kind of already takes care of organizing and maintaining your records, we'll work with you to manage all your other required documents. So this includes your farm food safety plan and your risk assessment, which are both required for the harmonized GAP certification. And these are both documents that require yearly upkeep. So we work with you to make sure that the timing on that is accurate and that your food safety plan and risk assessments are all up to date. Along with all of that, we provide technical training on the harmonized GAP standard. So that starts off with our cohort training classes at the beginning of the program. We have about 9 online training classes through Zoom, which normally last for about an hour, and we go week by week, going through the entire standard, making sure that everybody understands what the standard is going to be requiring of them, some options for different practices and procedures you can implement to meet the standard, and also just making sure that you're comfortable with the entire auditing process. Along with going through the harmonized GAP standard, we have other trainings available like WPS training, so worker protection standard training for using different ag chemicals. And additionally, we will help you figure out what other sort of worker training that your operation might need, depending on what sort of practices you're using. So really our program provides support through the entire harmonized GAP certification process and beyond. And kind of that beyond aspect that we're really trying to focus on right now is making sure that farmers that make it through the program, get harmonized GAP certification, are able to expand their markets and connect with larger buyers. So that's one thing that we're really focused on moving forward. Additionally, this year, we're really excited to offer farmers on Maui some extra support through one of our funders. So through this support system, we're able to provide Maui farmers with a pretty big discount for our GroupGAP yearly fee, which is reduced by $200 to $600 a year for that just base level member fee. We're also able to provide $200 a year for food safety related expenses. So this could be PPM test strips for water testing, harvest bins if you need to find food safe harvest bins, and PPE equipment that you may need. Also, through this support, we're able to provide quarterly water testing for folks on Maui if you need that water testing at your operation, if you're not on municipal water, for example. PSA training, so Produce Safety Alliance training, we will be able to reimburse you if you need that training, if you're required to take it. I'm not exactly sure what the fee is, but we will be able to reimburse you for that training. And lastly, for Maui farmers who are able to achieve USDA HGAP certification within the year, we will give you an additional $200 reimbursement on your yearly member fee. So with all those discounts and reimbursements, it equals out to a free program for folks on Maui who are interested in getting that harmonized GAP certification. So we're super happy to be able to provide that. Next, we have two short testimonial videos from some GroupGAP member farms. Both of these operations have been in our group for a few years now, and they've both achieved harmonized GAP certification and maintained it for, I think, both of them 2 or 3 years actually. So Carrie Kakaazu is the owner and operator of Metro Grow Hawaii, which is in Kaka'ako. They grow hydroponic microgreens and lettuce, and they're an indoor growing operation. And then Leana Hanawahine is the food safety and fulfillment lead at Kualima Farm, located on the North Shore, and they're a conventional diversified fruit and vegetable growing operation. So two pretty different sorts of operations that have both been able to achieve certification, and we're excited to share their testimony with you guys. Just gonna switch over to this different screen.
Carrie Kakaazu, the owner-operator of Metro Grow Hawaii. We're the first and largest vertical farm in Hawaii and specialize in growing premium leafy greens. We grow indoors with municipal water, don't use pesticides, and are free from most contaminants. This environment enhances food safety, and we're confident that our produce is clean and healthy. We did still need assistance with all the other details of complying with food safety regulations. and this is where the NSCVP GroupGAP team came in. Even though our production methods are inherently safe, we learned a lot about the proper documentation, training, and monitoring that goes into being a fully compliant operation. The certificate we earned by participating in the program opened up new sales channels, since many larger purchasers require certification before they will purchase a farm's produce. The NSCVP team made sure that our plan was up to date, reminded us of important tasks, produced training modules, and explored new tools to make the process of compliance easier. They also assisted with our in-person USDA audit that involved a long and detailed list of items. Their preparation before the audit and support during the interview was invaluable. Farmers have a ton of details to attend to, and we need to focus on making sure our plants grow. It's great to have programs like the NSCVP GroupGAP to support our efforts to increase local food production in Hawaii. Thanks.
So that's Kerry, and he actually had his in-person third-party USDA audit this past September as well. So I think that's the second time he received an external audit. Next we have Liana from Kualima Farms.
And I work for Kualima Farms. Having been a part of NSCVP and the GAP cohort has made food safety extremely easy to manage. Task-driven components makes NSCVP program super easy to follow. Having access to a HempConnect app to do our logs is the way to go, as this allows for an easy audit, which I think that made my first USDA audit super fast and streamlined. A quick walkthrough with the auditor and a couple of questions for the farm crew, and the auditor was done. I do suggest when making your plan to always think about your daily practices and not to overcomplicate them. Keeping it simple while hitting all your concerns is the way to go. Having this GAP certification protects our owners, Pono Pacific and Turtle Bay Resort, and it is also allowing us to grow our customer base to include Chefstone, Foodland, and many more. Aloha.
Going back to the slideshow. So I think next I'm gonna pass it back to you, Lisa.
Yep. So hopefully hearing from actual farmers who've been in our program is a little bit more enlightening and a little bit helpful to you guys. We're happy to answer any other questions about those operations or other farms in our program, but wanted to just start to wrap up here. So we want to be respectful of your guys' time. And so we want to touch on the selection process and what comes next. First, I want to just make it clear what we are looking for in terms of folks who want to join our group. We do have 18 farms in our group currently. We are always looking for farms that really want to scale up, expand their market, meet buyer requirements. So if you are looking to sell to Cisco, for example, that's going to be a requirement that you're going to need to get that food safety certification. If you're looking to really just do any of the other documentation that another buyer might require, this is the right program for you. We really need to have, though, partner farms who are committed to this process. You have good communication, you're motivated. We really want to get through to that end goal, which is certification, hopefully within that first year. Certainly, sometimes it does take longer, but as long as you stay committed and motivated, we're going to be committed and motivated to getting you there. We want to be clear that GAP does not apply to livestock. So if you have sheep or goats, sorry, but we only work with fruit and vegetable producers at this time. We do need a completed application from you. So as you take a look at the next steps, getting that application done, please do your best to complete it as fully as possible. If there is something that's missing, we're going to have to come back and ask you about that. Once we do receive a completed application from you, the next thing we'll be doing is calling you to schedule a site visit at your farm. For the most part, we do try to do this in person. We want to come to the farm. We want to meet you face to face. You want to meet us face to face. We want to make sure that we're going to be happy working together. And also, we want to get a look at what's on your site. What does the infrastructure look like? Again, going back to those requirements, you need to have a bathroom. We want to know what your water sources are. We want to see if there's structures or vehicles or things like that on the farm that could be something that we want to be aware of. Organization and cleanliness of the farm and structures is very important. Not to say that we can't always improve, but we do want to make sure that we have a farm that's ready to go. And if we do see things like abandoned vehicles or something like that, we're going to help you figure out how to take care of that, because that will definitely be something that could be a red flag in an audit. And most importantly, on these farm visits, we want to hear from you. We want to understand what are the challenges that you see at your farm. You are the expert at your organization. You're the one who's going to tell us, yes, I have pigs that cross my property, or whatever the problem is, or challenge that you see. Those are the things that we really want to use that visit to hear about from you. We are accepting applications to the program now, and we will do so until January 12th, 2024. So you can go to our website, get that application. It is a fillable PDF. Go ahead and fill it out, send it in to us. The sooner the better, because again, we do want to schedule those visits. And so once we start getting a lot of applications coming in, time gets a little bit tighter. Our cohort size ranges from year to year, really depends on the number of folks who apply and our capacity as a staff. I am really happy to have a much bigger team this year, so we will be taking anywhere from 5 to maybe 7 or 8 farms, depending on staffing, and we again may be able to offer more help to more farms later on in the year. So we're looking forward to seeing those applications come in and encourage you to get onto the website after we're done and take a look at that.
Just really quickly to clarify for working with operations that do have livestock, we are able to work with farms that may have goats, chickens, a diversified agriculture situation, but we do only certify the fruits and vegetables, that aspect of your operation. So we do have plenty of farmers that maybe produce eggs or slaughter animals even, or just have livestock at their operation, but the harmonized GAP certification will only cover the fruit and vegetable part.
Thanks, Jeff. That's a good clarification. So the last thing that we would like to do here before we open it up to questions is make sure that you guys are clear on the next steps. As I mentioned, the application period is open now. It will remain open until January 12th. After that point, we won't be taking any more applications for starting immediately in February. So those applications are available on the website. There are 2 versions. You will see an English and a Mandarin version. This is the first time that we will be offering our training program in another language. We're excited to be offering it in Mandarin this year. And so we expect to have a group of farms that represent both English and Mandarin speakers. Selected participants will be notified. So once we get your application in, we'll schedule that site visit and we'll talk through getting you into the program. We'll let you know formally that we are able to take you, and then we will start our training program likely in mid to late February of 2024. And the reason that we like to start pretty quickly is we want to get a really good handle on getting you through the training program, all of the video classes, and then we're preparing, hopefully by the summertime, to have a good sense of if you're ready for your audit that will likely be coming up towards the end of the year.
So next, we're going to open things up for question and answers. So if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or you can type them into the chat. And as we mentioned before, we have these 2 super short pre and post event surveys. Unfortunately, I'm not sure why the links were not working. So we will be emailing those out to you folks after this webinar today, probably along with the recording of from today's webinars. So all answers will be recorded anonymously and just used for our grant reporting purposes.
Does anyone have any questions about the program, the way it works? Oh, there's one. What is the average time to get certified? It really depends on the organization of the farm. We have had some farms who get certified very quickly, within the year or even sooner, like in a few months. Those typically are farms that are doing a really good job at keeping records. Maybe they were already keeping records before they even started with us. They are very communicative. So when we're writing up a farm food safety plan or doing risk assessment with them, it's very easy. They're very easy to work with and communicate. But it really comes down to being organized. However, a lot of farms do take the full year. And when we get to the audit time, sometimes they're still kind of working on some of their procedures and getting some things done and wrapped up under their belt. I will say too, it's okay if you enter this program and you work on all of this for a year and you fail an audit at the end of it. It's okay. When an audit is failed, it really is just a matter of identifying the corrections that you need to make, setting a timeline and making those corrections. So please don't feel like it's a black or white situation. If you enter the program and you fail your first audit, that's totally expected. And that's okay. We'll continue working with you until we get you to a passing audit. So typically it's going to take about a year. For a new farmer, what harmonized GAP audit scores does Cisco view as accepted to start doing business? From what I understand from that, the Armstrong Cisco folks, they just need to see a fully certified farm. So the passing rate for a GAP audit is 80%, unless there's a mandatory criteria that you miss. So even if, for example, you did everything else right, but one of the criteria that you get a corrective action note on, if it's a mandatory one, so that would be something like making sure that your employees have had their employee trainings. If you miss that, that would be a fail, even if it's the only thing that you miss. But Cisco is looking for farmers that are certified.
Is the cost of the audit included in the membership fee? Yes, it is. And this is one of the major benefits of being in a group GAP program, because typically if you were to do the certification independently, you would be, as the farmer, responsible for that audit fee and also for the auditor's traveling fee. Since in Hawaii, we don't have many certified auditors for USDA harmonized GAP. Oftentimes, the auditors do need to travel over from the mainland, and that adds an additional fee to the audit. With Group GAP, how it works is the membership fees from all of the operations in the group are pooled together and used towards the cost of that audit. So each year in our program, not everybody receives an external audit from the USDA. Everybody will receive an internal audit completed by Lisa or myself. And then from that list of internal audits, the USDA selects about 2 to 3 operations in Hawaii from our group to make an in-person visit to.
Hi, can I ask a quick question? Oh, sorry, there's someone else.
Okay, we'll do this one and then we'll get to you. Is there a link to the application? I couldn't find it on North Shore UP. Yes, there is. I'll go ahead and put it in the chat, and then Will, if you want to ask your question, and Chess can grab that one.
I was just wondering, so we've met before. I'm a teacher at Kapaa High School in Kauai, and I'm wondering if it's even feasible to attempt to move towards GAP certification as we try to get over some of the hurdles with putting food into our school cafeteria. With as many variables as we have, meaning students, obviously different students coming in all the time, and we do a high degree of experimentation, trying to figure things out. Does it even seem like some GAP certification seem like something that's even feasible for a school?
Yeah, so we actually already work with 3 schools
Oh, cool.
either are in the process of reaching certification or have actually already achieved harmonized GAP certification. And definitely there are some different things to consider, just having kids at the farm, just some clarity within the harmonized GAP standard of, okay, are these kids workers at the farm or are they volunteers? So some definite challenges with making sure language is really clear and making sure that especially the external auditor that's coming to visit the farm, if they do, that they really understand the nature of the operation, why they're trying to get certified, and that this is a school, not a conventional farm. So it's possible, but definitely some clarification and additional work is needed, I would say.
Awesome. And the bathroom scenario, does it have to be on, so we have an 1.5 acre farm. Can the bathroom situation be maybe 100 yards away? Does that still count?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool.
For harmonized GAP, I'm pretty sure the bathrooms either need to be a 5-minute walk or drive away from production.
Perfect. All right, cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good to see you again, Will.
Pleasure.
So the application, if you folks are looking for it, I put it in the chat, the link in the chat, but if you do go to our website, you're gonna wanna just scroll a little over halfway down the first front page, homepage, and you will see where it says Hawaii GroupGAP Program Cohort 8. That is also on the under the events, it'll say events link, projects, upcoming events. When you see that Hawaii GroupGAP Program Cohort 8 applications, if you click on the more info there at the bottom and 3 little dots, you will see that same picture open up, and much more largely, it says Hawaii GroupGAP Program Cohort 8 applications. Cohort 8 application form is fillable below or can be found here. So click there to download it. There's also a Chinese version, which is the second link there that is in blue. And then you can email it to us as soon as you're done.
Oh, Weston, I see you have a question.
Yeah, if I can ask a question, please. Thank you for your presentation and for taking that time with us. And I'm glad Will got on the Zoom to ask that school question. My name is Weston Yap, the new Farm to School Coordinator for the DOE School Food Service Branch. My question for you folks is this. We'd like to encourage more teachers to take on the GAP training, ask appropriate questions like that bathroom distance one. I'm sure there's other questions on how to apply it to the schools that we could, I know I could benefit hearing from. For schools and faculty that want to participate that aren't necessarily a farm, would the cost still be $800 to attend the course? And is there a way the schools could get reimbursed if they're not like a formal commercial farm for the cost of that tuition? Thank you.
Good questions, Weston. I think if the school garden or school farm is trying to attain certification, then they would be a regular member of our program and would therefore, when they get certified, be eligible for reimbursement from USDA. If that's not the case, and it's really just an opportunity for staff and teachers to receive training, we'd be happy to talk with you about providing that without the associated cost. Any other questions out there? Now's your chance. Well, if there's not, we can start to wrap this up. And I think Chess is going to end us here.
Yeah, really quickly, just wanted to make sure you guys can recognize the rest of our team. So we're a small team, so this is all of us. So Kevin Kelly is our founder and president. Then Dea, Ingrid, and I, we are all food safety specialists, and we're all located on Oahu. Lisa Roden, our food safety director, is located on Kauai, and then Mia is our food safety intern, and she's a UH student here at UH Manoa. Okay, no other questions in the chat, but yeah, if you haven't already, please take down our contact info. It's also on our website. But if you see any of us out and about, now you will recognize us. So thank you guys so much for attending today's webinar. Again, if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to email or text or call us. We're happy to answer.
I'm going to stop the recording. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank you.
Aloha.